Okay, Eloro is back at the drilling, and they're actually following pretty much the script that we talked about way back in September when we discussed the story right after they put the resource out. Okay, so they're doing infill drilling, and they're generating some really nice results here. You can see that headline hole. This is up in the Santa Barbara area. It hit about 280 grams silver. Wow, that's think about that. That's 9 ounces of silver per ton, along with appreciable lead. And there's even a pretty high tin in that interval as well, over nearly 63 meters. That's a world class drill intercept for silver. That's an awesome result. Now they had good numbers in many of the other holes too. You go to the news release, you can scan through the tables and see for yourself. But what I want to do now is I want to kind of take you back in time to September when I talked about this story and the resource that they were working on, that they put out at that time. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Now, Cassie, we're going to go through these relatively quickly. Okay, so this slide simply shows wide space drill holes, kind of like they had at that time, with significant intercepts. Okay, and I talked about the fact that if you take all of the intercepts that they've released over the past 3 years or so and put them in a bag and average out the grade, it comes out just a little over 100 grams silver equivalent per ton. That's pretty good. That's like 3.3 ounce silver per ton. Okay, so we'll just say that the blue intercepts in here, are of that magnitude. That's what they hit in this wide space drilling. Now go to the next slide. Now, if you let a computer, an unconstrained model, and a computer go to work here, it loves the grade right around the hole, but boy, when it tries to extend that grade outwards, you can see the grade diminishes. In other words, that pictorial shading of blue, that shows you lower grades as you go further away from the drill holes. What does this mean? You need to get more holes in between so that you can demonstrate that grade is in between as well as immediately around the drill holes. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. All right, so this will say represents the real ore body, and Bill Pearson has called this a mesh. So I drew it in a pictorial way. This does not represent true reality in terms of like on the ground type picture, but it shows you what kind of a deposit this is going to look like. It's got these bands that kind of all interlink. And on average, they're running a little over 3 ounce silver per ton equivalent. Okay, that's what I've said before. You take all those numbers and put them in a bag, shake them up, and average them. You get about 3.3 ounce silver equivalent per ton. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, now let's drill some holes in between. Okay, and you can see the red holes are the infill holes, and I've shown the significant intercepts. It's kind of hard to see, but the little blue lines that are on the red lines, those show where we would have hit mineralization in those infill holes. Very important. Okay, that provides a lot of data. Notice that it really does help crystallize the picture here, much more so than the previous image. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so now we can take this and apply it to our computer model. Now this shows you what the computer model looked like before the infill holes. Let's see what effect this has. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so you can see, there's our blue intercepts. You can kind of let your mind wander, but you can start to connect shapes. Let's go to the next slide. I think at this point, they'll be able to do what's called a constrained model. In other words, they can draw hoops around areas where it's like, there's no mineralization or very low grade mineralization inside those green areas. So let's just eliminate those. And let's get the computer to focus, all right? Focus on the areas where we do have drill intercepts, significant intercepts. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so basically all those green things are going to go away. The computer is going to then put a block model over this. Go to the next slide. And it's going to conform to this thing. Okay, so one step further. You can see now, because we know what the deposit looks like, you can see that by constraining this, we have more or less taken out what is in reality waste. Okay, so you've eliminated that. What does that do to the resulting material that's left over? It increases the grade. Okay, the computer's not trying to smear grade into those white areas. It's basically, constraining the computer to look at the areas outside of the white areas where the red X's are. You want to focus on that because that's your ore. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, so here's our new block model. We're going to do smaller cells too. We're going to do little baby cells compared to the previous ones, but we're going to apply a block model over this. Go to the next slide. I think. Oh, okay. This. Sorry, no, it's all right. Guessing. All right. This is kind of where we're heading. Okay, now this is an image out of the resource picture. Now notice the red area. Okay, that's where the higher grade is. You might say, well, gee, it's like a real high grade core to this, and there is a high grade core to this. Okay, don't get me wrong, but it's also telling you where the most drilling is. Okay, so in other words, as the company drills more holes in this blob of green polygons here, you're going to see that red expand a lot of the pieces, the holes and whatnot, infill and stuff, and we're going to grow the high grade. Okay, and that's the point I'm trying to make here, is that this infill drilling is going to help kind of pull out the pure essence of the deposit, the real ore from the waste. Okay, now if you remember back in September when they announced their resource, they did have a sub-resource inside of that. It was 132 million tons at about 1.6% combined zinc lead, which is wonderful. Okay, it also had about 24 grams silver. Okay, now if they can do this infill drilling and convert a lot of those green polka dots to red polka dots, which I think they will. Okay, I think they'll see a significant uptick. They'll also increase their confidence, by the way, like it goes from inferred to indicated. What you're going to see is you're going to see the number increase. So it might go from 132 million tons, maybe it goes up to 150, or maybe with luck it goes to 200 million tons as they focus more and more and more on the ore inside of this shape. Okay, so what could we end up with after the infill? We could end up with a higher confidence resource, but a bigger high grade resource, maybe 200 million tons with a little luck, like I said, that's grading something like this. Okay, now why is that important? Well, that's about where San Cristobal started as a mine. Okay, everybody's like, this project, is it really economic? And I'll tell you what, if they come out of this with 150 or 200 million tons of those kind of grades, absolutely. Because I know we experience it at San Cristobal. We make money hand over fist on that kind of ore. Okay, and I think that's going to be the case here. I think once they get all this infill drilling done, no problem. They're home and hose. They will be able to put a mine plan, like start doing the economics, doing maybe a PFS on this or whatever, that takes it and really shows that you could build a sizable mine here. It's like 40,000 tons a day, maybe with luck. That's going to have a long life to it, 15, 20 years, and will absolutely kill a pig. Okay, it's a good deposit, and they're starting to really see that come back to life here. Okay, and I think we see it in the share price, to be frank.